Welcome, everyone. We have a great podcast today. This is the Wilderness Reboot podcast, and Wilderness Reboot is a transitional support community for wilderness therapy alumni students, exclusively designed for them to come together and have community. I'm Mark Adamski, your host, and today we're so excited to interview Casie Fariello, and she's with an amazing support group for families and parents called Other Parents Like Me, and we're so excited to learn about her journey, how this all evolved, how she got into this world, and everything in between. Does that sound about right, Casie?
That sounds about right. And I wore my hat just because I was with Mark today.
Gotta have the swag. Gotta have the swag.
That's right.
So let's have some fun. Let's just have a conversation. And yeah, Casie, how did you get into this world, wilderness therapy? Yeah.
Um, so back in 2018, my son, my older son, was really creating chaos in the house and with a lot of crisis moments with suicide. When he told me he tried it because of me, um, overdose, running away, holes in the wall. I mean, even if my husband like couldn't even leave me with him at any moment because that's when things would just get even worse. It was a lot of focus on me, in his anger, and uh, we were doing all the things that insurance would pay for. We were doing all the things that we were told to do. Okay, you're going to go to an IOP. Doing research, it sent us to this one place that we could find that would take an under 18-year-old. Um, and so we drove him up there into Connecticut, and he came back. He didn't even see his junior year. He came back. He did a PHP. Then he went. There was suicide. I mean, there was things in between all those other things.
Sure.
Suicide attempt, and we sent him back to that program. He ran away. He was snorting anything that was he could. Came home for 2.5 weeks. The school wouldn't take him. The services that were available here in New Jersey was nothing for us. And we were told, you just have to figure it out. So he was on his way to a boys' home because it was it was scary in the house. And it was 2.5 weeks later he overdosed.
Oh.
So I have a lot of anger towards insurance companies.
Yeah.
And the school as related because of that, because we were trying to figure stuff out and we didn't know what to do. We didn't have money. So while my son lost 5 days of his life at the hospital, a friend came to visit, and we called him his one sober friend. And his mom took me aside and said, I have had two friends go through this. A friend went through this and she used an educational consultant. And I was like, oh, what? First, I have no idea what that
What's
is.
that?
Okay, let's talk about that. And honestly, until that moment, we were just stuck with what we could get here in New Jersey. We were stuck with what insurance would pay for, and insurance didn't want to pay for them anymore. Like it was awful. It was awful. So I did a GoFundMe and raised a lot of money. I raised $70,000.
Wow.
And sent my son to wilderness.
Wow.
With my husband. Um, we got a good educational consultant, and that she suggested. Am I allowed to say the program?
It's up to you if you'd like to share.
Okay, all right. Second Nature, because I'm a big fan. So
Yeah.
big fan. Devin Glissmeyer, the owner of Second Nature, was who we were fortunate to get as John's therapist. And we were lucky because we got Jared Alston as well, and the two of them, their combo I'm going to start to cry. It changed my son's
Wow.
life.
Wow.
And he had to go on Christmas Eve. And that was one of the hardest decisions ever.
Wow.
But he transformed there. There was a lot of snow because it was Utah in December. And there was a lot of snow. And his pictures, like the picture of the first picture that they take, it was like you could just see the anger, and his eyes were clouded, and he didn't even have like pupils. Like it was just
Wow.
so just sad, right? And his greasy, awful hair. And within, it took a couple weeks. He was still angry there for a couple weeks. I mean, he did lose Christmas here with us, so he had a right, but his siblings didn't want. We're like, if he comes here, we're going because we can't do that.
Yeah.
And we respected them. We gave them that right to be like, yeah, we just can't do this right now. And there, within 3 weeks, there was smiles. The pictures of him were phenomenal. Like you could see, and his eyes were blue again. It was amazing.
You really said some incredible stuff, and I think you really give families a lot of context and meet them where they're at, because with the insurance companies and finding services, there's a lot of disconnects, there's a lot of gaps, and it's tough to find the resources in the best direction to go. Finding a clinically sophisticated program that's particular to fitting the needs of that student, right? And seeing the frustration and the challenges and the fear of not maybe acting immediately, and hearing back from programs like, you just got to figure it out, we can't help you now, right? Parents and families, they don't need support in a month or in a week or tomorrow, they need it now. And sometimes that's where families are at. It's crisis, and you want people safe. It's incredible. It's really
Yeah, we had gotten to the point because of the stuff he'd done here, that um, when he overdosed, the local, 7-day kind of stopgap programs, no one in New Jersey would take him. That was also happened. So he had to go to New York. So we had to drive him there. Um, it was just so hopeless.
yeah. What do you think are some common themes that you've noticed for families looking for resources or options, or some of those challenges? I mean, obviously you went through it. Is there anything you tell parents or?
I remember thinking, well, so many people must be going through this. I'm just going to be able to Google it and find it. I'm going to find an answer.
Yeah.
And it's there, and that answer is going to be the right one, and that's the one that we're going to follow, and we're going to go like this, 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 and he's going to be fixed, and this is going to be over in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Or for wilderness, once he's going to wilderness, and he's going to be back in 3 months, and everything's going to be great. And for my son, that wasn't a path for him. Now, looking back, he's shared with us that two paths, right? If you ever want to talk to him, I'm sure he would talk with you. 2 paths. It was great wilderness, and it was sucked at the same time. That's what he would say. But he would not lose the opportunity because it gave him such strength and knowledge that he was a worthy person and he can do this. Like he took ownership. And that was really hard for me as a parent to first I'm sending my boy somewhere in the cold and the snow, and then to let go.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't the fixer anymore. Like
Wow.
I fixed everything for 16 years. Yeah. And to give him agency was hard. And he gained that agency by going where he went. And he says, I would not have graduated high school. And because it was not the right fit for him. That high school method was not, it didn't fit him.
Yeah.
And we were like, didn't know how we could ever afford like a regular boarding school.
Yeah.
And the other part is he, and I hate to say this, but I just had like this great moment and I blanked.
Oh, I get it.
So I'm just gonna be completely honest and transparent that I blanked. But so the school was a part of it. I blanked.
Yeah. Well, let me help you out here. No, it happens to me a lot. It's getting towards the end of the day. And,
Yeah.
I think your story, the actual lived experience, resonates with a lot of parents and families. And I'm sure that's kind of why you started that project. And, from my world, working wilderness programs for so many years and seeing that magic on the trail, it is incredible to see what students get out of wilderness, because it's a little bit different for everyone, but it's a time where they can disconnect from any dynamics happening at home. They can invest in themselves. They can think. They can have a space that's non-judgmental, that's holding that space, helping them navigate a confusing time. And for adolescents or young adults coming in to these programs, there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of comparison in this culture today, a lot of this highlight reels we see on social media. And it's tough figuring out like who we are. And I think there's no better place to figure out who you are than to be surrounded by individuals in the middle of nowhere that, are connecting and figuring out what that looks like with guidance and professionals. And I love wilderness therapy because you get to see students take on hard things and prove themselves. And it's more about seeing that reflection shown back in others, through staff, through other group members. And when they take that talking stick, right, and it's their time to lead the group or, be the leader of the day, and their values and their challenges, everything comes up, and they get support from the guides, but, they're in charge of their group, their culture. And it's really amazing to see that change and being a part of that and witnessing that. It's absolutely a privilege. And yeah, it's really incredible to hear that, because a lot of students in the beginning particularly may not have that buy-in, but they get to a point it's so disarming because they realize it's for them. And when they take that on and they own it, it's amazing to see that agency, right? And it's really cool that you could see that in your son now.
The other part that as you were talking, I was thinking about for him was it was the first time he saw other kids being open versus hiding in high school with the struggles that were happening for them. And he gained such emotional intelligence, and it's so that we're 4 years down the road from this. And a friend of his was in the midst of a breakup, a really bad breakup. And that, my son, listening to him, talking this kid through it.
Whoa.
The kid felt that he could, with John, actually be vulnerable because John is open for that vulnerability for another boy. I'm sorry, I'm probably not supposed to say that, for another boy to share that. And oh my gosh, like the things that he said. I mean, my husband and I literally were like, later on, he's like, he learned that all in wilderness. Like all that stuff that he talked about, and he was talking him through, and trying to have like, let's think of her perspective. Let's talk about your perspective. What is your anchor telling you? Like all this stuff, right? What is your anchor telling you? That's wilderness. Like who talked about that stuff?
I know.
10 years old?
And that's what it is. It's taking what comes up, accepting it, processing it, talking it out. And that comes up so much in wilderness. You hit walls, you hit obstacles, you hit some mindset walls, and you break it down. You work through it and you figure that out together. And you realize everything is possible to take on with the right approach, the right mindset. And I think having yourself go through that process of change, you can show yourself that it's possible, and change your cognitions, your perspectives, and how you perceive reality in the world and how, all your interactions, right? Because when we come from a place of, high emotions, we're not making the best decision. We're not in our rational thinking. And it's so great when you can start to see also participants get that emotional intelligence that you mentioned, because there's a lot of it is getting those skills and tools. It's educational. And I kind of want to segue into what you're doing, because you give parents so many resources, and if you don't have all the answers, you connect them with so many different resources and folks, and you have, you teach a lot of great things and hold a lot of great groups, but I want to let you talk about it. So when did the journey start with other parents like me?
John continued on to a therapeutic boarding school, went to transitional living. He was so excited because he graduated and he was going to transitional living, and it was 2020.
Oh, pandemic.
Yeah. So all that freedom that he was looking for was like yanked right out underneath, even though I will say they did an amazing job. Like they brought the gym to that, they did all sorts of things, but it still was not like what he expected.
Tough time.
Well, then that came for me too, because we were very involved in the process of healing with him. Going to the family for what are called family weekends, and going to wilderness. We did the wilderness family things, and we did the family therapy. We did all these things, and saw him almost once a month, and that was also yanked out for us. And I still needed connection. Like I built a really strong connection with the folks who were on the same path, parents on the same path, same boys. So I wanted to expand that, so I started support groups for them. And it was my 14 families from the first family weekend. And it blossomed from one support group to 8, from 8 support group with 14 people to 350. And I was like, oh my gosh, just need to expand this. I'm sorry for the cuckoo clock. This just need to expand this. And that's how other parents like me was born. It was born in November of that year. Wow. And just as a seed, and working and figuring out where I wanted. I volunteered in all different kinds of things. I went to different kinds of programs to really learn about the 4 things that parents need to learn: self-care, self-regulation, communication, and boundaries. And that blossomed from there of what a support group is for. So we do a little meditation in the beginning. So you do a little self-care.
Yeah.
And we do a topic, and my topics come from all over the place. Like Young Pueblo, if you ever haven't read him, I love Young Pueblo. He's a great poet. Tiny Buddha, from CRAFT, which is community reinforcement and family training, NAMI stuff. Like we're constantly trying to find new things that connect to parents, and then you talk about the topic. And so what you start to do in that hour is not just focus only on your kid, but you start to bring it inward and get those aha moments. And that was when I saw those aha moments, that's when I knew we're other parents like me we're on our way. Yeah. So we also have resources, lots of resources, all vetted by other parents who've searched, because we didn't say that in the beginning, Mark, but that was one of the problems when I said we were Googling it. There was no place to Google. You just couldn't find answers. And what worked for some parents that didn't speak to me, right. But that spoke to me. That didn't speak to me. That that's where I am. I come from let me pick and choose and because I'm my own person, my kid's his own person, my other kid, they all their own people. And then we have speaker talks, which you were one of them. And we record them, and you have to be a member to go see them, because we're very protective of our speaker talks, because that's free and anyone can come and ask questions, and we were really protective of that because we want you to be able to be comfortable to be asked, and it's not going to be like shared or downloaded or anything. It's not going anywhere, but within us.
Yeah. It's confidential
And
in one platform.
That became so important to me, is to create a safe, confidential, comfortable space. And the people who facilitate it, I call them peer parents, they are in the space with you. They are on the journey together, and they're not all like, not everybody's a wilderness parent, not everybody's on the therapeutic. We have all different walks of life, and I think that's really important, because I'll be honest with you, I was only told because I have a child with severe anxiety. I have a child who had self-harm, and then I had John, and I was told, just go to Al-Anon. Like, how does that cover the others?
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, and you raise a good point. And yeah, Googling it's you're not, you can find resources perhaps, but having someone break that down for you and having a community to chat about that, it's way different. And I absolutely support hiring a consultant, a therapeutic or education consultant, because they do have such a high skill set, expertise. They visit programs, they got boots on the ground. They know not only the programs, they know their approach, their clinical sophistication, the therapist working, and particularly what they're good at doing. If it's like a therapist in the desert who's specifically good with defiant kids from the East Coast, right? Like, so niche. Mm-hmm. Like, they're great to have, but it's not a reality for everyone. It's not a reality. No. And not all families can hire a consultant. And it's great to have resources like this, because there's not many, to figure out the best treatment options and have some hand holding and community along the way, because it's a very communal thing. It's a tough time. And I think probably one of the challenges, and I'm just talking out loud here, is trying to have community, but not knowing where to go and protecting that vulnerability and keeping it confidential. And so that's cool, because they can connect and it's confidential. They know other people, other parents just like me, right? They're going through the same thing. And that's, I think, such a big selling point. And so let's talk maybe a little bit more about some of the specifics in your community, because you highlight a few, but I think there might be more, and I want to kind of let you speak to that.
A lot of what has been born in our platform is and I have 30 peer parents, just so you know. I have a lot. Wow. And we have some internal team members as well, is based on what we were not able to get. So that's such great knowledge. And that's, why our speakers are live and people can come and ask questions. Because it felt like anybody who I wanted to ask a question, I had to pay them. So, so that's why they're free, because we want you to be able to come ask those questions, and you can be so specific. Like, we had someone talking about self-harm. My kid is doing this at home. What do I do? And, have someone say, well, I don't know specifics, but I can give you some tools, some thoughts.
Yeah.
And then other parents, of course, they throw in the chat, like, this is what I did. This is what it's just like beautiful. And we have 17 support groups, and we have 2 men's meetings that are attended well, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
We have a group based in trauma, and it's not trauma of your child, but you can go there if that's what it is. But you can also talk about the trauma from your childhood and how you parented from that space. I know I did.
Yeah.
We have an adoptive family. We have young adults. We have ones for people with kids in programs, ones who are kids are out of program. Like, we just want to try and make the space as welcoming as possible. And of course, there's general and stuff like that, and solo moms, because, and when I say solo moms, the reason I say solo moms is, well, it could be widowed, could be divorced, or you're a married couple and you're the only one doing the work.
Yeah.
Which happens more frequently than not.
Sure.
So I'm hoping I'm not like upsetting some dads right now.
We love our dads. Dads gotta get involved too. I love the men's group that you have.
So that, and that's important to me. We give 3 months free, so you don't have to you can take your time. I remember needing that time. Mark, that those 3 months in wilderness was what I needed to be ready to start inwardly focusing once John moved on to his next step.
Yeah.
It seems so weird. It seems weird. Like, why does wilderness tend to be 3 months? But I now know, and it's a lot of it is because that's about the time we need.
Yeah.
One, we're like in shock that we're there for the first month. 2, we're like, the second month you're going, okay, all right, okay. I can sleep now. That's another part. And maybe I'll look up some things. Yeah, I can read a book. I can read a book.
Mm-hmm.
I can read a book. Yes, they want me to read a book. I can actually read it. And then the third month, you're like, oh, I'm about to go into the next level phase.
Right.
And you're finally like, I need support, and I need to have other parents who, when I talk about what's going on, they all shake their head.
Yeah. And you're not like sharing your story a million times, and yeah. And that's the appeal.
Oh, we share our story a million times, over and over and over again, until it's like just a book you wrote.
Right. I can't encourage families and parents enough to just check out your program, check out the community, because like you said, you can join for free, get months of access. And even if it gets you just through that one day and gives you something to think about a little bit differently, that's huge. That's huge. And I can't stress that enough, because it's huge. Yeah, I love what you're doing.
There's so much community, and I love the community you're creating. There's a lot of community seems to be building for the kids, and it's just not the same for parents.
Yeah.
And we're worried about, like, how much do we share about our kids, because is that going to make it that they don't get into college? Is that going to make it that they don't get the right job? Because we've talked about it. Is that going to make it that they're now the red family, which of course we were. You're now the red family that nobody, when your kid comes home, nobody wants to talk to anymore. And what I found was that was not true.
Yeah.
And people always care, but it's really hard to know that.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, these are complex things. I mean, family systems, right? I mean, my brother struggled with multiple relapses, and that was a really tough time for my family. And I've been in this work for many years, and it takes me every now and then to really put myself back in that time, and really try to think about what everyone was doing and how everyone dealt with it. And, I had my other brother kind of isolating, and I was more kind of explosive in some ways, and my mother was trying to get her own support, but doing a lot, and she was the fixer too and trying to help. And my dad was dealing with his own stuff and dealing with his own way. And it was a tough time. It's crazy. It's really just a crazy time. And I think having gone through that experience, it's made us a lot closer as a family. The communication, not keeping secrets, and the list goes on. I mean, that's just a couple things, but sometimes it's a blessing in disguise, and it's a tough time. But when you talk about it and you can connect and you can relate, you can make progress. And part of learning is pure learning. I think that's a real strong suit to the healing, right? It's like the co-regulation learning, like you mentioned the mindfulness. If kids are growing up and seeing their parents not manage stress well, they're going to learn some of that behavior as well. And if parents can understand that process they went through wilderness or a program, they can help be on the same page and model it, right? And hold space for each other and not be reactive, and honor what people are feeling, and have better communication. It's tough, but you make steps. You make steps in the right direction.
When my favorite motto to say is, when I started to get stronger, my family got stronger. When I stopped only focusing on my kid and taking care of myself, it gave him permission to take care of himself.
That's huge. Yeah. Well, this is always fun talking with you, Casie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it as well, even if I did cry. I always cry.
Casie, with other parents like me, we're so excited for you. We love supporting you and what you're doing. Is there anything parents need to know to get in touch with you, get in contact with you? Anything else you'd like to mention?
Sure. So we have Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Just search Other Parents Like Me. We have a website, OPLM.com. OPLM.com. And if you ever need support, you can always email me. I'm very open book, and it's just casie@oplm.com. I'm happy to walk you through, and just keep an eye out. I think I always share on Mark's page our Thursday night speakers, so you just keep an eye out and see when something's coming up that resonates with you, and hopefully we find that aha moment for you.
Awesome. Casie Fariello, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Bye.